everybody. Welcome back to episode number 5 here in our All the Mod 9 to the Sky series. This past couple weeks has been a little rough on me as far as time goes. I haven't had a long enough time to sit down and actually do a stream or record much of anything. I've been able to get on for like 35, 40 minutes at a time and do a little bit here and there. And mostly it's just been doing a little bit and then AFKing and stuff throughout the last week and a half. But I have a whole bunch of things here that are just kind of all over the place. And I'm hoping today to take some time to actually move them into a more organized way. But first I wanted to show you some of the things we've done to get you caught up in what's been going on. So I have our ore processing stuff going on over here. I've really upgraded it a lot. Probably need to turn those sounds down because these machines are loud. I've upgraded these to like the highest levels I can get to. I've just been slowly working and adding more things and coming up with new systems. Let's just start from the beginning. This is a system I've designed for growing trees and turning them into charcoal. I actually need to make some more phyto grow because it's just about out. Actually, it is out, but I'm almost out of trees. So what I've been using is phyto grow to keep that running at maximum efficiency so that we can grow as many trees as we possibly can. And then, oh, this is struggling for power too. Yeah, I've slowly been replacing power lines with flux points so that we can have wireless power, but that has just been a slow process. But anyway, this is going to grow trees. The trees are going to get processed into charcoal. The charcoal gets sent over to this system, and I was experimenting with how I would do it to increase the speed of the sulfur production. But these machines turn charcoal into sulfur. The sulfur gets fed into here, and this processes it into the whole chain goes down to make the sulfuric acid, which goes in here to process our ores, and then that all goes down and quintuples our ores down here at the end. And it does it as fast as it can. It's using a ton of power, using a ton of other materials and stuff too, but it is processing. I think that this is going to be something where I have to, instead of trying to make this system go fast enough to keep up with the amount of ores coming in, I'm going to make a different setup for each type of ore, because there are 10 of them that come through that get processed this way. And the issue is I'm just like, right now I'm processing gold. I have so much gold that it's going to process gold forever because it's never going to switch to something else. And so I could come up with a way to round robin it and do like a stack of each at a time. But I think what I'd like to do, since I now have a huge amount of materials, is just replicate this system and make it so that I have each ore has its own line, and we're constantly quintupling all the ores at all the times. To do that, I need to continue doing some more work on this to get it organized before we do that. Because basically what we're going to do, and I'll show you this next part. For example, I have this machine is making hydrogen and oxygen, and I was experimenting with a couple of different ways to handle that. I have them going off through ender tanks. This one over here, I have an ender tank set up that pulls in oxygen, and then this tank here is just as an overflow. So if this were to ever fill up, it would start dumping the excess of the oxygen, but the oxygen goes and gets stored into this dynamic tank, which at this size holds 3.2 billion millibuckets, so 3.2 million buckets of oxygen, and then it gets fed back out into another ender tank. And you can see that I'm coming up with a system for how to do this. So basically what I'm going to do for the ender tank network is I'm going to have light blue at the top means that this is a gas tank. The line in the middle says whether this is an input or an output. tank because I want to have different lines. So basically production machines will get hooked up to one of these so I can feed it into the tank, and machines that are using it will get one of these so it's pulling out of this tank. That's the idea. And then the different color at the bottom, I will use a different color for each type of gas that we use. So I'm going to basically make a storage building that holds all the different gases we're going to use and liquids, and set it up similar to this. So this is just experimenting to figure out how I want to do that. But so the idea in the end is eventually I'm going to have it so these machines that are using all these gases are pulling directly from ender tanks instead of having all this spaghetti of wires everywhere. And I'm going to do the same thing with water, and I'm going to do the same thing with brine and things like that. So we'll have a large storage for the liquids and gases, so that we can just keep producing it as much as we want to. We can expand the amount we're producing if we need more, and then we'll just use ender tanks to do it. As far as making ender tanks go, we aren't going to have any problem because the materials for them are ender pearls, blaze rods, obsidian, which I still need to automate, but or set my automation back up, iron, and wool. And so as far as ender pearls go, I'm currently sitting on 62,000, and that's because I compressed a bunch of them, so I would have even more. Actually, I think I have them in a compressed one though. So 62,000 is what I have, but that works out to be 6.9k ender blocks, and 700 of the ender block times 1, which is like 81 ender pearls for each one of these. Crazy amounts. Plus I have all these fragments I could also condense down. As far as blaze rods, I don't have a ton of them, but I have 205,000 blaze powder, and I'm going to figure out a setup for turning these into blaze rods. But for now, when I need to make a few tanks, I just go to the nether, and with my looting sword, since I'm pretty much invincible in there, I can just kill blazes for a while. I may also bring some blaze spawners over and add them to our mob farm in the future. And then for wool, same thing. We have string. We have 11,000 of the string, so we can make a lot of wool. Eventually I'll set up a wool farm as well. But so we are pretty good on setting up these tanks. So these are going to be ways to avoid having all the different piping, and also to allow instantaneous transfer without having to worry about piping limits and things like that. I've also had some issues with the mechanism pipes doing weird things where like they pull out an item even if there's not space, and then this pipe ends up holding too many items. I had that happen with my cobblestone over at the lava, and at this system over here that I'll show you in a minute, and it just kept adding to it every tick, and so eventually it got to the point where it lagged things out and I had to fix it. So I want to get to doing as few piping as necessary, so we're going to use wireless power and wireless fluid and item transfer wherever we possibly can. So that just shows you some of the things I'm working on here. It's just been testing to get it all set up for how I want to build it. And this same thing has been going on over here at our storage. I've been organizing things. It's not very organized as far as where things are placed because I haven't this isn't its final spot. I'm going to organize it in a building that I'm going to build over in that dome eventually. So it's just been doing some experimentation to test out different types of storage and things like that. Like this here, I'm testing out using the compression upgrade in the sophisticated storage. I think I'm going to end up switching all of our storage over to sophisticated storage rather than having a mix of the two, because I just like sophisticated storage, and it's going to be easier just to have one. The downside is the range is a lot different. The sophisticated storage, I can go 16 blocks away from each controller, but I can set up multiple controllers for different rooms that are storing things and then run the refined storage cables to them. This controller here, if I pull out my linking tool, you can see the range with the maximum range goes all the way out to the edge of that green box. So I could use one controller and it would see a ton of space. So they definitely both have their advantages, but I'm currently using a mix of the two, and I think I just want to switch to just one, and I like sophisticated storage. So I'm going to probably switch all of these over to sophisticated storage when we get there, which is kind of going to be a pain because some of these have hundreds of thousands of items in it. And just to show you an example of that, I have a barrel here that has, well, it had 15 million cobblestone in it, and I'm trying to move it over into this new system I set up to store cobblestone. And so I have pipes that have ultimate upgrades that pull a stack per tick out, and I put one on every side, so I'm pulling out 6 stacks at a time, so 384 items at a time. And this has still been running for quite some time to get it down to 10 million. It's going to keep going. As far as adding to our cobblestone, I also have these 18 CobbleGen tier 5s that are producing cobblestone pretty quickly, and these upgrades are pulling out it says it's transferring 128 items every 3 ticks is how the math works out. So it is, I guess it's because this probably can't keep up with the 64 items per tick. Not sure, but either way, that's how much I'm pulling out. You can look in here and see, or you can look here and see how quickly the cobblestone is flashing up. This is just a setup. I have almost 5 million cobblestone stored in there, so now I've been pumping it directly into here. This is set up where we have cobblestone that comes in here. This has stack upgrades, and I did 2 netherite and 2 diamond because that maxes it out. If I put in 2 more netherite, I don't get any higher number because I've hit the 2 billion maximum number with these 4 in. And so I have an advanced hopper upgrade that then pulls items out from the storage underneath it and pushes it up into the top one. This one, I have I don't think I need this one. Oh, I think I put in a stack upgrade because it was having issues where it would fill up these before it got the 4th one done, because this one holds, like each one of these counts as so many that I didn't have enough in here to finish making enough to transfer. So basically the idea is we put in cobblestone, it compresses it up to this point, and then this one gets transferred to here using the hoppers, and then it does the same thing. It compresses it all the way up to the, so this is cobblestone 1x, cobblestone 2, cobblestone 3, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 6, 7, 8, and 9. And so once we get to the point where I have 9 of these, I can add in 9, and this will produce cobblestone 9x for us very slowly, because cobblestone 9x is 8x is 43 million, so 9 would be 370 million or something like that in cobblestone in each of the blocks. And so it's going to take a long time to get those, but it's pumping away. And like I said, I'm emptying this one out, and I'm also pulling these in to add to it. And eventually when we set this up in our storage, this will just be hidden away somewhere, and it'll just sit there and keep pumping out cobblestone so that we can store to get to this point. My long-term dream is to have this one completely filled up so that this one fills up and this one fills up, and then we can fill up in the drawer this way, and so we have literally maximum cobblestone storage for everything. Other things I've been doing are setting up drawers for storing items coming from the sieves and working out systems for how I want to do that. Ooh, this got messed up somehow. Oh, because I didn't have it locked. Okay, so this all needs fixed a little bit, but that's fine. I want to do some work on that anyway. Basically, I have a sieve system over here, and everything goes into here, and it gets pulled out and put into our refined storage system. And you can see by the fact that there's not that much on these drives, almost everything is stored in our storage drawer system over here. So between the sophisticated storage drawers and the functional storage drawers, it holds everything, is the goal. I also set up a separate refined storage system, and so basically the idea of that is I can pull this disk drive out, I can throw it in here, and at a glance I can look to see what is not being stored in a drawer. And so you can see here, I have quite a bit of ore that isn't going in, probably because these maxed out at some point. So, and then once I have space, I added space for the things in there, I just put this in here, and it empties out into the drawers rather than into a disk drive, because there is no disk drive. And so I'll let this sit for a while, and all of these items that are in here that now have storage spaces will get processed back out into their storage spaces, and then I can put the drive back in. But so this is something that when I build the storage house, I'm going to put a room that's like a server room where we can access this, and then we can also have this next to it so that we can use that to do some work to maintain our system. And then in the end, I'm going to have a wireless system to access all this, and so I won't need to go into the room to do it, or I can set up terminals in places where I want them. So I have both of those options. You can see here our Flux network controller, and I can tell by the fact that these don't have any backup power in them. That means we're draining power faster than our system can produce it, which means I need to work on adding more power over to there. Let's take a look at what I've done for the power right now. This is my power room that I've been working on. Upgrading. I made this kind of modular. So we have these rows here. These are just massive rows of crucibles with superheating elements on them that are producing lava, and all the lava gets pumped back out this way. Or no, I'm sorry, the cobblestone starts here. And so I found that two of these is enough to do one of these and keep up with the cobblestone. And so I've just been expanding that way. And then all the lava gets fed down here, goes through this one pipe, through this system, into the tank here. And this tank feeds lava out to all of these magmators. And these magmators are all full up, but we're still not producing enough power to keep up, which means we're using more power than we can produce in these rows of magmators. And these are set up in, I have 13 in each of these, so 13 times 8,000 FE per tick is 104,000. So basically I set these up to be, each one of these represents 100,000 FE per tick in this setup. And I kind of did that because if we look at power, the tier that we're on, Spirited, 13 of those is basically the same as a single one of these reactors at that level. So once I get to the point where I can start building reactors, I can replace these with one of these, or I probably won't replace them. I'll leave them there and add to it. But basically one reactor is going to be the same amount of power produced as one of these units. That was kind of why I set it up the way I did. So basically right now we're producing about 300,000 RF per tick, or FE per tick, and it's not enough to keep up with our system. And the reason it's not enough to keep up with our system, I almost fell into the void. Getting a little bit of lag spikes when I go over there, which is one of the reasons I want to get out of the lava. I can keep producing it, but it's a lot. So let's get this way. This is our sieve system that we have now, and I've upgraded it and used some more advanced tech. So I'll start with these two here. These are igneous extruders that are producing, this one produces deep slate and this one produces blackstone. It gets fed into a hammer that crushes them into crushed blackstone and crushed deep slate. Oh, I guess I ran out of the backlog of deep slate, but basically this system is set up so everything gets fed down into here in a sieve. It goes into here. The interesting thing about these two is one of the things you get when you sieve the crushed blackstone and the crushed deep slate is pebbles, and then I have the pebbles being compressed back into their components. So this one makes blackstone, and so this one feeds blackstone back into itself to get hammered down again and creates a loop. So it just keeps producing stuff for us. And so this igneous extruder isn't producing terribly fast, but it doesn't have to, because it's now reached the point where it is just reprocessing the blackstone that comes out of this system. But these are using netherite upgrades, which means they're using 8,000 RF per tick for each of these sieves, and probably the same amount for the hammers if they're running full bore. So this system uses a lot of power, but it produces a redonkulous amount of materials for us. This is the same system, except that instead of using igneous extruders. I have cobblestone generators under there, and then these are hammering down those into gravel, sand, and dust, and they're all getting processed, and they're all getting sent into this drawer, which was working as my filter for the system, and then the system is importing them as fast as it can to keep this drawer empty. This just works as a filter because I have the memory settings set. Ooh, I got a real bad lag spike going on. I gotta figure out what's causing it when we're done recording here. But the memory settings I can turn on and off, so I just have this filled in so that every block has a memory spot. This thing holds a buffer of quite a bit of materials because I have these stack upgrades in, so each one of them holds 65,000 items before it backs up our system. And so as long as I can keep this emptied out before we get to 65,000 of a particular item in here, that means we can keep this system going. Last thing I want to show you is back here. These are a few machines. My lag has gotten to the point where I can't even move. What is going on? Something's got to be backed up somewhere that's causing it. I'm going to take a quick break and then I'll show you this so I can figure out what's causing the lags problems. Okay, I'm not quite sure what was causing the lag problems I was having. I just restarted and everything seems to be working fine now. So I just wanted to show you the last setup I have here. And this is my system for automatically stocking some items. So for example, this here, I have a cobblestone generator that feeds through this line to all these different machines and provides us with, I think this could be causing an issue. It's feeding back into itself. Don't want that. This system feeds cobblestone out, and then this is all the different things that are made from cobblestone here. So I have cobblestone that gets fed into here to make gravel, and then it goes into here to make sand. The sand gets hammered in here to make dust. And this dust here gets fed into this barrel that is supplied with water from the pipe underneath. And so if I take out a stack of clay, it very quickly replaces that clay. And that keeps us stocked on clay in our system forever, because this is linked to our storage controller over there, which is then connected as an external storage to our refined storage system. These are all set up the same way. So this one is storing gravel, and I have cobblestone being made into gravel here. I have gravel and then sand to make sand. I have cobblestone being cooked into smooth stone. I have cobblestone being ground into sand, which is then ground into gravel and then ground into sand and then cooked to make glass here. And then I have, this is cobblestone becomes gravel, and then the gravel gets sent down into here, or gets made into sand, which gets sent into here, which gets packed into sandstone. The sandstone gets pulverized to make sand and niter. And the niter is what I use to make the phyto grow. This one doesn't seem to be working. It's out of power. Because I never hooked up the flux points to it. Flux points are in this bag. If I have any left, I may need to make another batch of them. Or do I have them in here? I should have a bunch of them somewhere. Plugs. Huh, that's odd. I know that I had a whole bunch to use. I must have used them all up. So flux points. Oh, my system can't store them. That's what the problem is. I just realized where it is. I still have this drive in here being emptied out, and I never put it back in. Which means, yep, there's my flux points. These are so cheap to make that I've just been using these as power points instead of using cables. So we switch this to my network. We switch this to my network. And the one on top also needs power. Switched to my network. Okay, so this now should be working. This gets cobblestone, gets into gravel. The gravel is being turned into sand. Do I have the energy turned on here? I do. Are we out of power? Is that what's going on here? Probably are. I'm probably completely out of power. It's fine. We don't need it right now. This just... Oh, man. Thought I fixed that problem. These mushrooms grow, and then they grow into tall mushrooms. And that's not that big of a deal, except that when they do, they can break through mechanism power lines. They can replace them. So now this mechanism transporter, I have to put down a new one because of that. So I need to figure out a way to make it so that these don't grow. I think if I put string on top of there, that would probably make it so that the mushrooms can't grow. So let's try that. I want the mycelium there because it makes the witch water grow or convert faster. And this is what's used to make our soul sand here. But it is clearly going to be problems if I have mushrooms growing and breaking my stuff. So let's put power on there. Yeah, I got to work out my power issues. We got some things to work out. But anyway, these are all the things that I have set up now. Oh, back here I have my plant grower, so I'm growing different types of trees and different types of plants using phytogenic insulators, and they automatically stock within our system too because these are all connected to our storage. And so we have, these are just set up to be, they pull the items back in for the seeds. So the potatoes, for example, it pushes the potatoes and the poison potatoes out and it pulls another potato back in to keep it stocked up to redo it. This one's a little more complicated, but it does the same thing. The seeds get pulled back in, it pushes the wheat and the seeds out, and it just cycles through, and it uses water and power to produce crops. And so these are all ones that are things that I just let them run slow because I don't need a ton of them, but I want them stocked. So like I just set them up a long time ago. Now I have 8,000 logs in here and 2,000 pumpkins, and that's going to be more than I need. And if I need them in a large quantity, then I'll come up with a system specifically for it. But this is just to keep it so my system has access to those items, and I've been expanding them as I go. And then I just have some machines here that are just ones for me to use, kind of crammed in for the moment. When we build our storage house, like our main house, we're going to have a room for each of the things just so I have a way to access them. But mostly I've just been working around trying to figure out how I'm going to do the things here so that I can know how much space I need to build and use that to make the things. Over here I have this sphere that I made a long time ago, and this is going to be where our storage building is going to be. Nope. Got some mobs spawning down here. So this room is going to be the next thing I work on. We're going to build an island in here, and we're going to put a really big storage building that stores all of those things inside of it, with the exception of the ore processing. Maybe I think the ore generation and processing we'll do in another building, and then we'll use ender chests to send the stuff over to the storage room. So basically the idea is we'll have the mob farm that's over there, we'll have the ore processing over there, and everything gets sent here, and this is where we store all of our things. And I also have one last thing to show you before we call it a day today with this little recap episode, and that is something I have been working on in here because I want to build a really big contraption using some glass. So in here I set up a system to hammer cobblestone into gravel and then gravel into sand, and we're cooking up glass. I think we're out of power here. I think, did my whole power system just break when I restarted? I think that might be my issue here. It's running. I think I'm just using so much power that it's not getting power to where it needs to go. But anyway, I've already made 1,000,000 glass. I'm gonna need probably even more than that. But let me show you what I'm planning to do with this machine. I have the shape card in there. I'm gonna turn on the preview. It's gonna lag for a few seconds once it generates the preview. Not too bad. But if you can see, I am building a dome, and that dome is going to be just below these islands. And that dome is going to be massive. It's going to go up, and it's going to go over, encompassing this entire space. And then basically the idea is that I am going to have an enclosed base that fills up this entire area. And then I'm going to have these spheres that are in it. And what I want to do once it's built is I'm going to put in my own ocean that comes up to all these islands and create my own little section of overworld inside this dome. I don't know quite how many blocks of glass it's going to take to do it, but it's going to be a lot. And the other thing I want to do with that is that I am going to convert the glass into clear glass. So right now I am just storing up a bunch of glass in here. Like I said, I have over 1,000,000. This system will hold in total 536 million before it maxes out. And that means we're going to be building this for quite some time. And when it's done, I think it's going to be a pretty epic build. But the next stage is building our storage room, which is going to be in that room over there. Let me turn off this preview so all these mobs that are standing on the preview blocks disappear. There's my little lag spike because of the getting rid of the preview. And there we go. There's a mob spawned inside my glass. It doesn't want to go away. Anyway, this building will be our next big project that we're going to work on. Now that I have everything over there built, I'm going to build the actual building and get into doing some decorating. And then once we have it all in place for the storage, we'll start actually moving the storage over here and set up our storage network. So some exciting things coming. Everything is processing super fast over here, producing so many resources that I can barely even handle them, but I'm having a lot of fun with it. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.